This video is going to take a look at knowing what we know about sig figs and rounding, and then applying it to some problems for multiplication and division. So we're going to take what we know with significant figures, how to count sig figs, and also how we round them, and we'll use them when we do some math. Now, these are our rules here. These are kind of the guidelines, so if you want to take a minute to write this stuff down, that's good. I encourage you to kind of pause the video. I'm going to continue to talk through some of this, and we're going to look at some examples, kind of learn these rules and explanations. So, when we do multiplication or division, what we want to do is we want to round our answer so that the final product has the lowest amount of significant figures that we started with. So we round our answer so we have the smallest number of sig figs based on what we started with. What do I mean? Well, let's first kind of talk through step-by-step kind of instructions on how we would do these problems, right? The first thing you're going to do, there's a three-step process for doing multiplication and division problems with significant figure rounding. The first thing I want you guys to do is just do the math, actually plug the numbers in. So, 5.6311 times 2.3, you just plug that into your calculator and enter what you get. Write down that number. In this example, we would get 12.95153. Not so hard. You haven't done anything new. That's not too challenging. Just plug it in your calculator, write down what you get. Now that we have our answer, and we can look at this whole thing, we've got to figure out how to round it using our significant figure rules. Well, when we do multiplication and division, our rule is that we have to have the lowest number of significant figures that we started with. So, for multiplication and division, the smallest number of sig figs. That's the big thing you have to remember. So how do I do this? Well, let's take a look at the two numbers that we multiplied to begin with, and we got to look at how many sig figs they had. So in this example here, I've got 5.6311. Okay, so I've got a decimal right here. That means I'm going to start from the Pacific side, the left side. I'm going to move across it until I hit the first non-zero number. Well, the first number that I hit is non-zero, so this 5 and everything after this is significant. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs. So this right here has 5 sig figs to it. My 2.3, same rule. I have a decimal present starting from the left side. I hit a non-zero number. This one's going to have 2 sig figs to it. So I just had to count up how many sig figs both of the numbers that I started with had. My rule is when I'm looking at my answer and when I'm rounding my answer, I want to make sure that my answer has the lower of those two numbers. So I had 5 sig figs and I had 2 sig figs. Well, 2 is lower, so I've got to take this answer and round it down so that it only has 2 significant figures. Now, the same rules for rounding are going to apply to this as we did before. Take a look at the first two numbers, the 1 and the 2. Take a look at the number to the right of it. Okay? It's a 9. Right? Remember, if it's a 9, that means I'm going to round this value up. And when it's going to 9, it's actually going to become a 10. So this is going to become a 0. I got to carry my 1, and everything else after this becomes a 0 as well. So when I carry my 1, this is equal to, right, and I'm actually just going to write this underneath here so we don't get too confused. This would be equal to 13.00000. But remember, I said that I had to have 2 sig figs because that was the lowest number that I started with. So I've got 13.000. If I want to drop this down to only have 2 significant figures, I got to start taking off zeros until I get there so that I only have 2. So when I round this, my correct answer, rounded to the appropriate number of significant figures, would be 13. So let's kind of review these rules again. The first step, step 1, all I did was I just entered this part into the calculator and I got this. Not too bad. In my second step, right, I had to figure out how many significant figures I had to round to. So I had to count up. Well, how many sig figs did I have in this value? And we said I had 5. And how many did I have in this value? Well, I had 2. Because this was lower, I had to round my answer, what I had here, to 2 significant figures. And by doing that, I got the value of 13. That's what we looked at. Let's try one more example here with some division. So in this example here, my first step here that we talked about before, so step number 1 was do the math. So I got to do the math, right? So I'm going to take those two values that I have, the 1.4 0.4600 divided by 96.1. I'm going to plug that into the calculator, and this is what I get when I get that answer. I have it already done for us. 0.015192. Okay? Now that I have that answer there, my second step, so step number 2 was count up my sig figs. So I have to count up sig figs. So how many did I have when I started with? Because I need to figure out how many I have to round my answer to. So I gotta look at the values that I started with. This 1.4600. Okay, I gotta count up sig figs. Again, the decimal's present in this example, so I'm coming from this side. And every single number in here is going to be significant in this example. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs again in this example. For 96.1 here, I have a decimal here, starting from the left side. The 96.1 has 3 significant figures because every number there is significant. So because 3 is my lower value of significant figures, I've got to take this answer and round it down to 3 sig figs. I have to look at my first 3 significant numbers. Okay. Remember, if I'm counting this up here, there's a decimal here. These zeros are not considered to be significant. So the first 3 numbers that are significant are the 1, the 5, and the 1. Those are where I'm going to keep. I got to look at the 9 for my rounding. So there's my number to the right. Again, it's greater than 5, so I have to round this up. So this is actually going to become like a 10, so I'm making this into a 0, carrying my 1 over, and this is also going to drop off and just become a 0. So changing that answer here, right, based on what we just said, rewriting that, clean this up a little bit, I would have 0.015, carry the 1 on top of this because we rounded to 0, 0. So that's what I just changed it to. But now again, I have to remember that my answer can only have 3 sig figs. So now I have to do this third step here, which is just the rounding. I kind of already did this, but we got to just make sure that my answer has this appropriate number of sig figs. If I'm going to have only 3 sig figs, I have to take a look at dropping off some of these zeros. So this decimal here says I'm going to start from the left, so I go across this. My first 3 significant numbers are the 1, the 5, and the 2. I got to drop off everything after that so that I have only 3 significant figures. In this example, my answer would be 0.0152. Hopefully that kind of gives you an explanation on how to do this. If you're getting it, you can go ahead and stop the video. I'm going to do one more example just to kind of help you guys out. There are some practice problems that I want you guys to try right after this. There's one for multiplication and one for division. And then continue on within this lesson to also see how to do the addition and subtraction problems. Let's take a look at one more example if you need it. Otherwise, stop and continue the problems. Here's the next example. So I have another multiplication problem. And again, if we remember, our first step is not that hard. So the first step I got to do is just do the math. Okay? So I have 17.3875 times 2.0. Again, just plug that into your calculator. I'm just going to do the shortcut here. I already know what the answer is. If I would plug this in the calculator, I would get 34.775. My next step is to count up sig figs. So count sig figs. I have to figure out, well, how many sig figs did I start with? So I'm going to count up how many sig figs I multiplied these 2 values together here, and I'm going to round my answer to that. So I have a decimal present again. I'm starting from the left side, the Pacific side, because it's present. In this value right here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sig figs. With a decimal present here, again, I'm starting from the left side. This value right here is going to have 2 sig figs. So because 2 is my lower of the 2 numbers, that's what I need to round to. So I'm going to actually have to round this answer here to 2 sig figs. And that's my third step. So round to lowest a number of sig figs. Right? So I'm just kind of writing this down again. So I had 30, and I'm just going to rewrite this down here so it's a little bit larger, 34.775. I had to round this down to 2 sig figs. So I have to underline the first 2 numbers that are significant, the 3 and the 4. Look at the number to the right. It's a 7. That is greater than 5, so I have to round this up to a 10. So I got to carry that 1 over. Everything after that becomes 0. This number is going to change into 3. Got to carry that 1 over from the 10, 5.00. In order for this to have only 2 significant figures, because right now this would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I've got to drop these zeros off so that I can round this down here to the appropriate amount. Okay, so my answer would be 35 in this. Again, make sure that your answer is close in approximation to the answer that we started with. We started with 34.775. 35 is a good way of rounding that out. So that's your last example there. If you're having trouble with this, make sure that you talk to me in class. Go ahead and try the practice problems, and we'll get some more practice in class.